Hello, everyone. Today we're discussing the book A Disgrace to the Profession, The World's Scientists in Their Own Words by Mark Steyn, discussing the infamous hockey stick graph of climatologist Michael Mann. This graph, which depicts a dramatic rise in global temperatures in the 20th century after a long period of relative stability, has been both hailed as a smoking gun for anthropogenic climate change and criticized as a flawed and misleading representation of climate data. Our story begins in the late 1990s, when a young scientist named Michael Mann, armed with a freshly minted PhD, set out to reconstruct the Earth's temperature history over the past millennium. His work culminated in a paper published in 1998 that introduced the world to the now famous hockey stick graph. The graph was so named because it resembled a hockey stick lying on its side, with a long, flat handle representing the relatively stable temperatures of the past 900 years and a sharp upward blade indicating the rapid warming of the 20th century. The graph quickly gained traction, particularly after it was featured prominently in the 2001 Third Assessment Report of the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change. The IPCC's reports on climate change carry significant weight in policymaking circles. Mann's hockey stick was used to support the argument that the recent warming trend was unprecedented and likely driven by human activities, particularly the burning of fossil fuels. But not everyone was convinced. Almost immediately, the graph came under scrutiny from scientists and statisticians who questioned its methodology and the data it was based on. One of the earliest and most vocal critics was Stephen McIntyre, a Canadian mining engineer with a knack for statistics. McIntyre, along with economist Ross McKittrick, began to dissect Mann's work, and what they found was troubling. McIntyre and McKittrick's critique focused on several key issues. First, they argued that Mann's use of a statistical technique called principal component analysis was flawed. They claimed that Mann's method was biased towards finding hockey stick shapes, even in random data, and that it overstated the dominance of certain tree ring series in the reconstruction. This, they argued, led to an underestimation of the uncertainties inherent in the climate record. Second, they pointed out that Mann's choice of proxies, particularly his heavy reliance on bristlecone pine trees from North America, was problematic. Bristlecone pines are known to be sensitive to factors other than temperature, such as CO2 levels and precipitation, which could skew the temperature reconstruction. Moreover, the data from these trees was not representative of the entire northern hemisphere, let alone the globe. Third, McIntyre and McKittrick highlighted the lack of transparency in Mann's work. They claimed that Mann had not made his data and methods readily available for scrutiny, which is a fundamental principle of scientific research. This lack of transparency fueled suspicions that Mann was hiding something and made it difficult for other scientists to replicate his results. As the debate raged on, the hockey stick became a symbol of the broader climate change controversy. Supporters of the graph saw it as a powerful illustration of the human impact on the climate, while critics dismissed it as a statistical artifact that had been elevated to iconic status by the IPCC and climate activists. The controversy reached a fever pitch in 2009 with the release of the so-called Climategate emails, which revealed a behind-the-scenes struggle between Mann and his critics. The emails, which were leaked from the Climatic Research Unit at the University of East Anglia, showed that Mann and his colleagues were deeply concerned about the criticisms leveled against the hockey stick. They discussed ways to defend the graph and discredit their critics, and in some cases, they even discussed withholding data from Freedom of Information requests. These revelations further eroded public trust in the scientific consensus on climate change and fueled accusations of scientific misconduct. In the years that followed, several investigations were launched to examine the allegations of misconduct. While some of these investigations cleared Mann of wrongdoing, others were more critical. For example, a 2006 report by the National Research Council of the National Academies acknowledged that Mann's methodology was flawed, but concluded that the basic conclusion of the hockey stick, that the recent warming trend was unprecedented in the past 1,000 years, was supported by other evidence. However, the damage had been done. The hockey stick, once hailed as a cornerstone of climate science, had been tarnished by the controversy. Many scientists began to distance themselves from the graph, and the IPCC itself gradually downplayed its significance in subsequent reports. So, where does that leave us today? the hockey stick graph, while still a subject of debate, has largely faded from the spotlight. Climate science has moved on, and the focus has shifted to other aspects of climate change, such as the role of clouds, the impact of aerosols, and the complex interactions between the atmosphere, oceans, and biosphere. But the legacy of the hockey stick lives on. It serves as a cautionary tale about the dangers of over-reliance on a single study or a single piece of evidence. It also highlights the importance of transparency, reproducibility, and open scientific debate in building public trust and advancing our understanding of complex issues like climate change. As we wrap up this episode, it's worth reflecting on the broader implications of the hockey stick controversy. The debate over the graph was never just about the science. It was about the way science is conducted, communicated, and perceived by the public. It was about the role of scientists as advocates and the challenges of communicating complex scientific concepts in a politically charged environment. Thank you for joining us on this journey through the rise and fall of the hockey stick. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe to BrightLearn and leave us a review. And if you have any questions or comments, feel free to reach out to us on social media. Until next time, keep learning and stay curious.
This has been a BrightLearn video from BrightLearn.ai on the book A Disgrace to the Profession, The World's Scientists in Their Own Words by Mark Steyn. Visit BrightLearn.ai for more fascinating videos like this one, and naturalnews.com for full editorial coverage and breaking news on critical stories that keep you informed and aware of what's really going on.